ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שהכל נהיה בדברו. I called the office of the doctor lately, and I told him I am so-and-so speaking, and on the other side, the secretary said, "What date were you born on?" And I told her my date. Then she was ready to speak to me. She identified me. She didn't identify me by name, but she identified me by numbers. And it struck a chord. You know, modernity, everything is really numbers. Binary, zeros and ones. An open circuit, a closed circuit. You know, how can you type on your laptop, on your computer? How can the computer, after you press a button, know what you want to do? It's all a combination of zeros and ones. Each letter is assigned a sequence of zeros and ones. Not only that, you know, a photograph is really zeros and ones. Even taste and what have you, art, is somehow being reduced to zeros and ones. But I think this reducing everything to numbers also had other implications. You know, the Nazis, for instance, stamped a number on every inmate in their concentration camps. They didn't want to know them by name. They wanted to know them by number. It's a way also of taking away an individual identity, a personal identity. In Cuba, they used to call gusanos, which means worms, all those that were against the regime. In other words, that if you kill one of them, it's as if you're stepping on some kind of worm. In Africa, the Hutus called cockroaches the Tutsis, also to take away any humanity from them. So if you kill one of them, it's as if you're stepping on a cockroach. In the Torah, we find, on the other hand, an emphasis on names. Why is Adam, the first man, called Adam? It tells you why. And each and every one of the important people that appear in the Torah, a reason is given why they are called such and such. Yet we see that in the Torah also, sometimes no individual names are given. Who was the one that enslaved the Jewish people? It was the Egyptian Pharaoh. He was the one that... But Pharaoh means king. There were many pharaohs. What was the name of that Pharaoh that enslaved the Jewish people? It says, a new Pharaoh arose, Asher lo yada et Yosef, who didn't want to recognize what Joseph had done for the Egyptian people. What was the name of this Pharaoh? Historians would love to know. Why doesn't the Torah give you a name for this Pharaoh? Maybe what the Torah is trying to tell you is that Egypt was so immersed in evil that it didn't matter anymore who was the king. Every king would have done the same thing. People were powerless already because the environment had become so evil, so bitter, had become so suicidal that it wasn't possible anymore to make any change. This is why our ancestors had to leave Egypt. It wasn't a question of why don't we try to influence the Egyptians, try to modify them. It seems that they had gone over already a certain limit that you could no longer correct their manner of living. Well, make sure that the society in which you live doesn't reach such extremes, that there is no longer return. In Jewish tradition, we believe that the individual can always return. Ad yom moto achakelo, says our tradition. Until the day of his death, I am going to wait for him, says God, that he should repent. But we see that certain trends in society sometimes pass over a certain barrier that it is no longer possible to go back again. Some say that we're going through a terrible time now with the warming of the earth, that we may be soon approaching a limit, and after which we no longer will be able to reverse the trend of the heating up of our planet. So that on the one hand, maybe individually, God will always wait for us to return. in society, society can reach such a stage that it can no longer return. Maybe that is what happened in the time of Noah. The depravity was universal. So in order for the humanity to regenerate itself, it was necessary to start once again with a new family, with the family of Noah that had not fallen prey. So make sure that we never allow our immediate society, our families, to go over an abyss where they no longer will be able to retreat into decency, into the correct path again.